dear students, আজি তোমালোকৰ The Happy Prince নামৰ পাঠটিৰ প্ৰশ্ন উত্তৰসমূহ লৈ আহিছো। তেনেহলে আমি আৰম্ভ কৰো আহা। The Happy Prince. Question number 1. Why do the courtiers call the prince the Happy Prince? Is he really happy? What does he see all around him? Your answer hobo the courtiers call the prince the Happy Prince because when the prince was alive, he was very happy. He lived in a palace where sorrow was not allowed to enter. No, he was not really happy. He could see the ugliness and all the misery of his city, as his statue was placed on a tall column, but he could not move to help them. Question number 2. Why does the Happy Prince send a ruby for the seamstress? What does the swallow do in the seamstress house? Answer. The seamstress who was embroidering on a gown for the queen's maids was very poor. She had a little boy who was ill. Her child was asking his mother to give him oranges, but she had no money to give him orange. She could only give him river water, and that is why the little boy was crying. So the Happy Prince sends a ruby for the seamstress. The swallow took out the ruby from the prince's sword and flew over the town, and finally reached the woman's house. The bird laid the ruby on the table and then fanned the boy's forehead, shaking his wings, and flew back to the Happy Prince. Question number 3. For whom does the prince send the sapphires and why? Answer. The prince sent one of his sapphires to a young playwright. The writer had to finish a play for the director of the theater, but he could not write because of cold and hunger. There was no fire in the garret, and he had no money to buy food too. So the Happy Prince sent one sapphire to the writer so that he could buy firewood and food. The Happy Prince sent the other sapphire to the poor match girl whose matches fell in the gutter and got spoiled. She was crying as her father would beat her for this loss. So the prince decided to help her and sent the sapphire. Question number 4. What does the swallow see when it flies over the city? Answer. When the swallow flies over the city, it sees the rich making merry in their beautiful houses and the beggars sitting at the gates. He flies into the dark lands and saw the white faces of starving children. He also sees two hungry boys lying in each other's arms, whom the watchman scolded and made them go away from there. Question number 5. Why did the swallow not leave the prince and go to Egypt? Answer. The Happy Prince had sapphires for his eyes, and he ordered the swallow to give it to the young playwright and the poor match girl. The swallow plucked out the prince's eyes, and due to this he went blind. The swallow could not leave the prince in this condition and decided to stay with him always. Question number 6. What are the precious things mentioned in the story? Why are they precious? Answer. The two precious things mentioned in the story are the leaden heart of the Happy Prince and the dead bird. They are precious because both of them sacrificed their lives for the sake of others. The prince even sacrificed his sapphire eyes for the poor and needy and became blind. The swallow bird also left his idea of going to Egypt and sacrificed his life to stay with the prince and help poor people. মৰমৰ ছাত্ৰ ছাত্ৰীসকল, আমাৰ এই ভিডিঅ'টি ইমানতে শেষ হৈছে। ধন্যবাদ।